And we begin tonight with police naming a person of interest in the disappearance of an Avondale woman. Good evening and thanks so much for joining us. For 12 News at 10, I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. It's now been 4 days since 21-year-old Isabella Komas was last seen. And we've learned that her boyfriend is now facing charges for allegedly stealing and then trying to destroy her car.
12 News journalist Gabriela Becerra is live outside of the Avondale Police Department with new details in the search for Isabella. Gabby?
Well, Mark Kribe, Avondale police tell us there are suspicious circumstances surrounding the disappearance of 21-year-old Isabella Komas. Her phone was found in a recycling plant and her car was left damaged and abandoned in Phoenix. Police tell us detectives are now questioning her boyfriend.
My girlfriend came up missing, and they're stating a lot of stuff.
39-year-old Tommy Rodriguez is facing charges for allegedly stealing his girlfriend's car and trying to destroy it. His girlfriend, 21-year-old Isabella Komas, hasn't been seen in 4 days.
That victim's vehicle was in a state that leads people to worry about the status of the victim.
Komas was last seen leaving her friend's apartment in a red Hyundai Sonata near Avondale Boulevard and Van Buren Street on Sunday around 3 o'clock. That same day, she was pictured at a Quick Trip gas station down the road wearing a white T-shirt with a black logo on the front. Komas was reported missing to Avondale police the following day when she didn't pick up a friend for work or go into work herself. She also wasn't answering her phone. A turquoise alert was issued across Maricopa County on Tuesday.
There were factors in her disappearance in the initial investigation that led our investigators to believe that her disappearance there might have been foul play involved.
Police say Komas's phone was reportedly found at a recycling plant in Phoenix. Her car was later found near 67th Avenue and Indian School Road without her in it.
The state does not know where the victim is. The defendant likely does. And he has already demonstrated the destruction of other evidence.
Police named Rodriguez as a person of interest in the disappearance of Komas.
I called her to let her know she wouldn't answer her phone. There's proof of all that.
In court today, the prosecutor spoke about Rodriguez having a violent history.
Previous conviction for murder, stalking, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Avondale police say detectives are working around the clock to bring Komas home.
We do have a sense of urgency in locating her with the motivation of reuniting her with her family.
Avondale police are asking that everyone keep an eye out for Isabella. Anyone with information about her disappearance or her current whereabouts are asked to contact Avondale police directly, or you can contact Silent Witness to remain anonymous at 480-WITNESS. Live in Avondale, Gabriela Becerra, 12 News.
All right, Gabby, thank you. Happening right now, police in Phoenix are investigating a shooting that sent someone to the hospital. Officers were called to the area of 35th Avenue and Rozier around 8:30 tonight and found a man who had been shot. Police haven't released any information about the suspect, but say that they're actively looking for information about what happened. If you know anything, call Phoenix Police or you can call Silent Witness to remain anonymous.
Former Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema is accused of having an affair with a married man on her security team. A lawsuit filed by the man's ex-wife and mother to his kids says the two were together for months, going to concerts, texting salacious messages back and forth, and having several sexual encounters. 12 News journalist Chase Golightly is live in studio with more on the lawsuit. But first, Chase, can you actually sue someone for having an affair?
Mark, it depends on what state you're in. This lawsuit was filed in North Carolina that actually has what's referred to as the homewrecker law, claiming Sinema seduced a member of her security team, Matthew Amel, knowing he was married and had children. This alleged affair went on for months before Amel and his wife divorced in 2024.
So I'll just
Former U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema and Army veteran Matthew Amel sitting together for a forum held by Arizona State University and New America back in October, shortly after Amel's ex-wife filed this lawsuit against Sinema, claiming she had an affair with her husband while he worked for her. That Sinema encouraged him to leave his wife, as the two allegedly had repeated sexual encounters. The lawsuit writes Amel retired from the Army in 2022 and shortly after started working working for Sinema as part of her security team. Months later, the document claims the plaintiff found a picture sent to her husband of Sinema wrapped in a towel and another message of the two talking about having sex. It also claims Sinema started buying Amel gifts. They reportedly went to several concerts together, including U2 and Taylor Swift. At one concert here in the Valley, Amel reportedly told his wife that Sinema was handsy with him. It also claims Amel had to take off his wedding ring at these events so then it wouldn't look like Sinema was putting hands on a married man. During these trips, Amel was invited into Sinema's Washington, D.C. apartment and stayed with her at Airbnbs and her Scottsdale home. The plaintiff reportedly confronted Sinema and her husband about everything laid out in the lawsuit. Then in November 2024, after 14 years of marriage and 3 children, Amel and his wife separated. But according to the lawsuit that was filed in late September, Sinema and Amel are still together. Amel's ex-wife claims Sinema intentionally seduced him knowing he was married. All these trips and concerts call into question if Sinema violated campaign finance laws to cover these expenses. According to FEC data, Sinema spent thousands of dollars to buy several concert tickets during the months of the alleged affair. The description for those purchases: security detail.
The justification for those expenses becomes much more questionable.
Brendan Fisher, the director of strategic investigations at the Campaign Legal Center, looks into campaign finance issues. He says there's been several questions over Sinema's use or potential misuse of campaign finance funds.
She may not use campaign funds to pay for personal expenses, including the personal expenses of a person with whom she has a relationship.
Even though Sinema is no longer in office, he says it is possible action can still be taken against her.
Now, I did reach out to Senator Sinema through email, text messages, and even went to her home in Cave Creek for comment, but at this time, I have not heard a response. We're live in the studio. Chase Golightly, 12 News.
Chase, thanks. New tonight, a man in eastern Arizona is dead after being shot by police. Springerville's town manager tells us the man was being arrested at the Round Valley Police Department yesterday when suddenly he pulled out a gun. An officer shot the man. He was pronounced dead at the scene.
Measles, it's one of the country's most contagious diseases, and it's surging across the nation and now here in Arizona. And for the first time during this outbreak, someone in Maricopa County has tested positive. 12 News journalist Maria Stops is joining us now in studio with the details. Maria?
That's right. Maricopa County has seen measles exposures in recent months, but this is the first time confirmed measles case in a Maricopa County resident during the current outbreak. Now, I spoke with one Valley woman who remembers what life was like before a measles vaccine and why this outbreak feels so familiar.
Arizona native Marjorie Condor has lived through nearly a century of history.
I grew up during the Depression and then the Second World War.
But one memory still stands out.
I had the measles when I was a child, but then every child did then because there were no vaccines then. I was very sick. I remember being very sick.
Years later, she was dealing with it again. One of her kids, who was 4 months old at the time, had measles in the 1950s, just years before the vaccine became widely available.
He had this high fever for 4 days. He hardly ever slept. It just scared me to death because I didn't know what was happening until he broke out in the measles rash.
For her family, the nightmare eventually ended, but for hundreds of Arizonans, it's back. State health officials say more than 200 measles cases have been reported in Mojave County since last August. 97% of all patients were unvaccinated, and now someone who lives in Maricopa County has measles.
Our concern is that it expose other people.
Dr. Nick Staub with Maricopa County says the patient is an adult who recently traveled overseas.
Travel, especially international travel right now with so much measles transmission in the U.S. and around the globe, is a risk.
And because measles spreads so easily, he says certain groups should be especially cautious. People who are unvaccinated, children under 1 year who are too young for the vaccine, and anyone immunocompromised.
Those are the groups that we think about the most in terms of having severe cases of measles. But again, the best way to be protected is to be vaccinated.
A warning also shared by Marjorie, who has lived it and never forgot it.
Why would you want your child to get that sick? And why would you want your child to spread it to some other child?
Now, if you think you've been exposed or you have symptoms like a fever, cough, runny nose, red, watery eyes, or a rash, health officials say you should call a doctor and get tested for measles. We're live in studio, Maria Stobbs, 12 News.
All right, Maria, thank you. In national news, President Donald Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota after 2 ICE agents shot people in Minneapolis within 1 week. This is video of a protest outside of a federal building in the city that happened earlier today. In a social media post this morning, President Trump warned Minnesota leaders to stop what he described as attacks on federal officers, or he will deploy the military under the rarely used law. This comes a day after a judge declined to issue a temporary restraining order limiting ICE's presence in Minnesota.
Meanwhile, the assistant U.S. attorney in Massachusetts says ICE made a mistake in deporting a 19-year-old college student. Amy Lopez Beloza is a freshman at Babson College. Her family immigrated to the U.S. from Honduras back in 2014. ICE detained her at Boston's Logan Airport when she was flying home to visit her family for Thanksgiving and deported her back to Honduras, where her grandparents live. She says she hadn't seen her grandparents in 12 years and barely knows them. Tonight, she's still in Honduras and spoke to CNN following the Trump administration's policy.
I was already kind of shocked because of everything that happened. But I'm also with hearing that they have apologized to the mistake that they made. I accept their apologies, and I hope that based on this apology, I'm able to return back to my studies and also to be home with my parents.
Lopez Beloza is currently taking classes online while her immigration case is litigated. She's attending Babson College on a full ride scholarship.